Hi, everyone. I am Christine Kidder Graves, career coach, helping you have work that works for you. And I'm excited to be streaming again here on LinkedIn Live, talking about why do you need to have a healthy relationship with your work? What am I talking about with this? You might think I'm off my rocker talking about relationship with my work. What's that all about? Let me explain. Okay. We often, the main focus of our lives is our relationships with other people, right? Like your spouse, your best friend, and at work, in the workplace, your relationship with your boss and with your coworkers, with people. So again, when we think of relationships, we think of people, other people. But we also talk about our relationship with money. Okay, money is a pretty huge thing in our lives. It's how we have our standard of living. That's how we live. We use money. Money is an integral part of our lives. But I want you to I want you to pause and take some time out right now with me to think about your relationship with your work. What is your relationship with your work? Now, when you think about that, some different things may come to mind. I'm curious what comes into your mind. When I think about it, some of the things I think about are they're a workaholic when I'm thinking about other people. And I know with myself, there have been times when I've put in a ton of hours because I loved working on what I was doing. But at the same time, then I kind of felt off a kilter, off balance, because I was putting in so much time with work that I wasn't balanced. Other things in my life was suffering. So I probably could have been classified as a workaholic too, because I didn't have the balance that I needed. Then there's other people who I think really hate their work, that struggle with it. They see it as a necessary evil. And this is what I'm talking about today. And I really want you to take out the time to think about it because it's important. It really impacts how you're living your life. You may be one of the many people out there who has been successful. You've had a great career. You've been very successful. You're happy where you're at right now. And at the same time, you know that there's more. There's more to accomplish. There's more to do. There's more that you want to do. You're not satisfied. And you feel that there's a better way to do things. Even in the corporate setting, you see existing structures and processes, but deep down inside, you feel that there is a better way of doing things. And you know that there's more. But I want you to pause and I want you to reflect on what your relationship is with your work right now. Okay. And I'm going to talk about 3 things that you can do to improve your relationship with your work. The first thing is that you're taking the time right now to reflect on it and really think about what your attitude is toward your work. And also, I need to acknowledge, I know many of you out there's many people who've been laid off who don't have a job right now with all the tech layoffs that we've seen in recent weeks. Many of you don't have a job. And if that's the case, I want you to think of your job search as your job right now. Okay. Because really you're putting in all this work and all this effort to find a new job. So think about that as your work, right? And really think about your attitude and your mindset around it. If you had to think of 3 adjectives to describe it right now, what would you say? What would those 3 adjectives be? And just write them down on a piece of paper. I think it's more powerful if you have a piece of paper nearby and you can write them down. Now, as you look at those 3 words that you wrote down, is that how you really want to feel about your work? Is your mindset and your attitude where you want it to be regarding your work? This is something that I pride myself on. I'm going to be working even more on it with my clients. As a career coach, I'm not like other career coaches. And I firmly believe that mindset is a huge component. And I pay attention to it behind the scenes when I'm working on it with my clients. And I really wanted to focus in this LinkedIn Live more on it with you so you can start thinking about it as well. And that's my second thing to make it better. So number one, which is that short little exercise we just did, was to look at your attitude and your mindset around your work. And then number two is to give it proper attention, to give it the time to really think about it and pay attention to it. If you're not happy with your attitude, with your work, what are some things that you can do to improve it? Maybe you're really doing things that you feel aren't challenging you. Maybe they're things that you're good at, but they're just boring. You want to take on something different, something that's more meaty or something more juicy. But you need to carve out regular attention to it too, and really not have work by default. That's something that I post a lot. I talk about designing work that works for you and not settling for the default. So that's what I'm really getting at here, is that I want you to pay attention, to have an awareness of what your attitude and your mindset is around your work, around your career, or your job search right now. Because again, if you have a poor attitude about your job search, how are you going to be successful? How are you really going to get that result that you're working toward? You're going to be spinning your wheels if you don't have a great attitude around your job search. You're just going to be wasting your time in many respects. The third thing I would say to improve your relationship with your work is to get a plan to have, a better relationship with your work. So how can you do that? You can look at different areas of training and development that you want to pursue. How could you improve? What are 3 things you could do right now? So I had you write the 3 adjectives to describe your attitude toward your work, what your mindset is around it. You want to improve it because you weren't happy with the adjectives that you wrote down. What are 3 things that you could do in the next 30 days to improve your attitude around your work? Maybe you need to start a job search, or maybe you need to decide if you need to start a job search, or maybe you need to ask your boss for that raise that you've been kind of avoiding. So I want you to think about what are potential actions that you could take to really improve that relationship. So I want you to be aware of that. I also want you to think of it this way. Again, there may be some of you that are doubters out there. You're like, oh, Christine, this really doesn't matter how I think about my relationship with work. I show up to my job. I do the best job that I can. I'm done for the day. That's it. This really doesn't matter. It does, because it impacts your results. Are you showing up at work the way that you want to show up? Are you being the best version of you? There's no one else in the world like you. There's no one else who has your unique skills and talents, your abilities. I want you to embrace the skills and the talents that you were given. You were given a combination, and coupled with your behavior, with your personality traits. Again, there's no one else like you. It would be a shame for you to not fully use those skills and talents and those personality traits to be invaluable to others. And I want you to do that. So again, how do you improve your attitude? And keep on coming back to that question. How do you improve that? I want you to have a little reset the way you view your work, because especially if you view your work, you're like, it's no big deal, or you view it as a necessary evil. Change it this way. Think about your work as a baby, okay? Because I think that we're all growing and learning, always trying to be better. Do you ever get to a point where Okay, I know it all. I know I have nothing else to learn. I mean, you might feel that in your current job, and maybe that's why your attitude about it isn't so great. But I want you to embrace a learner's mind and really look at, well, there's always things for me to learn. And that's why I want you to think of your work as a baby. Do we get mad at babies because they can't walk yet, or because they can't feed themselves yet, or because they don't know how to run yet? No, of course not. We nurture babies. I want you to nurture your work. I want you to nurture your relationship with your work. I want you to tend to it and give it the attention and the time, and also to invest money in yourself too, to invest money in your work, because that is how you show up, one of the ways that you show up in the world. So I want you to, again, think of it as a baby. And especially if you might have been hard on yourself, maybe your career to a certain point hasn't been so great and you're beating yourself up. That doesn't serve you in any way. It doesn't. So I need you to stop if you're doing that. And I want you to instead to view your career and your work as a baby that is learning how to walk, and then it's going to learn how to run. So again, however you can be better and stronger, what are the things that you need to do? What are 3 action items for you to take on in the coming days to have a better relationship with your work, to really embrace it? So a common thing that we hear about, and I see it in LinkedIn posts as well when I'm engaging on LinkedIn, and you often hear about imposter syndrome. We all have it, and no one is immune to imposter syndrome. People that are extremely successful, like Brene Brown, Sarah Blakely, they confess, they say that they still, just because they've been very successful, that they've achieved a certain level of success, they're not immune to imposter syndrome. It never goes away. Think of it this way, like with public speakers, if right before, you could be a very accomplished public speaker, and actors too, actors and actresses, there's always that stage fright. It always happens like that you get that nervousness. And that's normal, because if you didn't have it, and if you didn't have imposter syndrome, something would be wrong. It shows that you care. You care very much. You care about your work. You care about how you show up. You want to help others, but sometimes we just have to get out of our own way so we can do that, so we can do our work and have our work help others. So here is my best tip for you on how to kill off imposter syndrome whenever it strikes. That's one thing that you can count on. Imposter syndrome is always going to be there. It's associated with fear. It's not going to go away. However, you can kill it for the time being, so it doesn't stop you from doing the work that you really want to do. So when imposter syndrome strikes, think about your audience. Think about maybe that one person. So maybe your client that you're working with right now, or maybe someone in the other department that you're working with that you're trying to help, or maybe you're doing a project for your boss. Think about that person that you're trying to help in that moment. And what is it that they need? What do they need the most to help them with that project? Okay. And then think about how you can provide that solution. Okay. Or at least how can you help them get closer to the solution? Right. So really be focused on that. With imposter syndrome, we're so focused on ourselves. It's like, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not. We're focused on what we're lacking. And I want you to take the focus off of that and be focused on who you're trying to help. They need your help. They don't need you to be stuck in imposter syndrome. They need your help and they need it now. So, what can you do? What action can you take to help them and to be of service to them? So, hopefully, you can feel the imposter syndrome melt away because, again, you're changing the focus on you being inadequate, and you are adequate. So, but again, when we get stuck in it, we're so focused. But take the camera lens off of yourself and focus back on the person or the people, the group, your boss, whoever it is that you're trying to help at that given time. So really think about that and be focused on that. So yeah, I think I wanted to talk about this whole topic. And again, it's really around your mindset regarding your work, because if you're not going to have the results. So often we're doing all the things. If you're doing a job search and you're not having the results, you may be doing all the things that you're supposed to, but if your mindset isn't where it needs to be, if your attitude about it is negative, you're not going to have the results. It's going to be much harder to land that role that you want to land, because that's your energy. That's how you're showing up, and people can pick up on that. It's not going to work if you have this negative charge regarding your job search, or if you're, not very happy with the work that you're in right now. So you really want to be aware of it. You want to decide to take some action around it. How are you going to change it? Another tool that I'm going to wrap up with to just help you, because this is a great tool to help you in changing your attitude quickly. If you ever find yourself stuck in a negative attitude, mindset, negative energy, a great way to flip it is to start applying gratitude. And I recommend doing this on a daily basis. But think about right now, what is something that you can be grateful for in your work? Are you grateful that you have a job right now? Maybe you really need to be in a job right now, that you're doing the work that you're doing. Maybe you're grateful that you get to work with certain people, but what is it that you're grateful for regarding your work? Maybe you're grateful that you have an opportunity to do your current job right now while you are doing a job search, because you feel that it is time for you to take that next step. And if that's the case, that's fine too. That's totally fine. I also wanted to share, I see this in my work constantly in working one-on-one with my clients. Every one of my clients that has been successful, it wasn't just because they took the actions that they needed to take that I had, given them to do, but they also had the mindset. They weren't stuck in a negative mindset, because again, that makes it so much harder to be successful, to achieve that result that you're working toward when you have a negative mindset. It's kind of like trying to run a marathon with a broken leg. I think it's possible for you to cross the finish line, but I don't know if you're going to do it in the time allowed, number one. And I think it's going to be really hard. It's like you're going to be working against yourself. So you have to pay attention to mindset. So hopefully this LinkedIn Live gave you maybe a paradigm shift to help you really reflect on what your attitude is regarding your work and what you need to do. What are some of the things that you need to do? Some of the actions that you need to take to improve your attitude and your mindset toward your work. So The best way that I can help you, if you want to do a deep dive, I mean, maybe this topic opened up some things for you. If you want to do a deep dive, the best way that I can help you outside of you being a client is when you do a career clarity call with me, which is my one-on-one. So you have my undivided attention for 30 minutes. It's complimentary, but we do a LinkedIn profile audit and I can give you right away my perspective on where you're stuck and what's going on. And I do work with people who are actively doing a job search and also individuals who are not doing a job search, but they want to have a career plan. You need to have a career plan in order to design work that works for you. Don't settle for the default. Get a career plan. And that way you have a roadmap to be able to, you're designing work that works for you. So we will put the link in the comments for you to schedule that career clarity call. It's recorded. You get a lot of value out of it because I want to make sure that your time is well spent. Have a great day. And I look forward to seeing you here on LinkedIn another time. I'll be back next week too. Bye.